The film begins with a father telling his son about the history of their people. Long ago, a meteor carrying vibranium crashed in Africa. 5 tribes began fighting over the vibranium until one of the shaman talked with the panther creator Bast and consumed a herb that granted him the ability to become the first Black Panther. The men unified the tribes to form the nation of Wakanda, eventually becoming king. However, the Jabari tribe chose to get shelter in the mountains, separating themselves from the other tribes. The Wakandan utilized vibranium to create incredibly advanced technology and chose to separate themselves from the rest of the world by creating a force field that hides the nation from visibility. 1992, Oakland, California, 2 men, Njobu and James, plan to transport guns across the city. A knock is heard on the door. James unlocks it and discovers 2 Dora Milaje warriors. Njobu recognizes them and reveals himself as a Wakandan. Njobu's brother, King T'Challa, enters the room among the warriors. T'Challa wants Njobu to return home after being sent to California as a spy to track down Ulysses Klaue, but Njobu has other intentions. T'Challa then reveals that James is Zuri, another Wakandan spy. They find that Njobu stole vibranium for himself and will bring him home to face prosecution for his crimes. Outside in the courtyard, a group kids look up to see T'Challa's ship flying overhead. T'Challa is now set to become king following T'Challa's death. He is flying over Nigeria alongside Okoye, a Dora Milaje general. The mission is to get back his ex-girlfriend Nakia, who is working undercover with mercenaries to smuggle women and young men as warriors. T'Challa, also known as Black Panther, climbs out of the plane and disables the mercenaries' trucks using Wakandan technology. When the goons come out to challenge T'Challa, he beats them all before finding Nakia. She joins T'Challa and Okoye on their journey home. The 3 return to Wakanda, where they reunite with T'Challa's mother Ramonda and younger sister Shuri in preparation for T'Challa's coronation as the next king. All of the tribes gather beside a waterfall to witness. Zuri provides T'Challa a drink that drains the Black Panther's power. With that, none of the other tribes chose to challenge T'Challa until the Jabari tribe appears, and their leader, M'Baku, comes up to try to take the throne from T'Challa. The 2 battle with M'Baku, nearly succeeding until T'Challa obtains the upper hand and traps M'Baku in a hold over the falls until he taps out and surrenders, allowing T'Challa to claim the crown. Following the ceremony, T'Challa is given another drink to restore his powers before being buried in sand and transported to the ancestral plane. There, T'Challa sees his father. They embrace as T'Challa falls upon seeing him. T'Challa shows fear about becoming king and doing the right thing. T'Challa explains to his son that, while he is a nice man, it is difficult for a good man to be king. Eric Killmonger Stevens is in London, appreciating African cultural artifacts at a museum. He asks the guide about a hammer-like weapon, which she misidentifies as one thing, but Killmonger corrects her and says it's made of Wakanda vibranium. The guide then passes out from something the Killmonger placed into her coffee to create a distraction. The medics arrive, but they are actually Klaue and his goons. They eliminate the guards, and Killmonger snatches the weapon before fleeing with his group. T'Challa and Nakia go through downtown Wakanda. He wants her to stay at home and help him run things, but she is hesitant to continue working in Wakanda. Later, T'Challa is with his best buddy Wabi as they monitor a wild rhino in a pen. Okoye, Wabi's lover, calls them to the palace. Klaue is planning to sell the vibranium item to an American buyer in South Korea that night. Wabi wishes to join T'Challa in finding Klaue, who murdered Wabi's parents, but T'Challa requests that he stay and keep things secure while he leaves. Before the journey, T'Challa meets with Shuri, who has invented astounding technology, including sound-absorbing shoes, called sneakers, and upgrades to the Black Panther suit. It is disguised as a necklace and absorbs each strike it receives, transforming it into kinetic energy. T'Challa, Nakia, and Okoye go undercover in Busan to a casino in search of Klaue and his customer. T'Challa meets Everett Ross, who is also undercover. Klaue and his men in arms arrive, and he instantly realizes he is being set up. Okoye is compromised by one of Klaue's men, prompting her to fight. Klaue and his men flee and ride through the streets, forcing Nakia and Okoye to chase them. T'Challa follows in his suit, while Shuri drives a car through a projection back home, which controls an actual car that T'Challa drives. The enemies shoot at him, but the bullet hits give him kinetic energy, which he redirects at the villains. Klaue fires at Nakia and Okoye, smashing their vehicle but not killing them. T'Challa approaches Klaue's automobile and pulls a tire, causing him to crash. T'Challa prepares to finish Klaue, but Nakia reminds him that everyone is watching. They take Klaue into arrest. Ross interrogates Klaue while T'Challa and Okoye listen in via a gadget T'Challa implanted in Ross. Klaue discloses to Ross everything he previously didn't know about Wakanda and everything it contains. Outside, Killmonger and his men planted bombs behind a wall. Nakia notices this on the security cameras and rushes to alert everyone, but the villains blow open the wall. They start shooting, and Ross pushes Nakia out of the way, receiving a bullet to the back. Killmonger pulls Klaue away, and T'Challa discovers a ring around Killmonger's neck that resembles one that belonged to his grandpa. Ross is given medication to help him stay stable till they return home. The villains go to a jet that Killmonger wishes to take to Wakanda. Klaue holds Killmonger's girlfriend captive because he has other plans, but Killmonger kills her before shooting Klaue. He tells Killmonger that he would not be allowed to enter Wakanda unless he exposes a tattoo on his lip that is common among Wakandans. He then kills Klaue. Back in Wakanda, Wabi is disappointed with T'Challa for failing to bring Klaue in. At the same time, Shuri is caring for Ross and using Vibranium to cure his wounds. T'Challa then rushes to see Zuri and asks him why Killmonger has his grandfather's ring. Zuri is then forced to reveal all he knows about N'Jobu. In a flashback to 1992, we see N'Jobu stealing the Vibranium and distributing it to other people of African heritage so that they might fight back against their oppressors. N'Jobu turned his gun on Zuri, but T'Chaka intervened and murdered him with his claws. T'Chaka felt terrible about it, and they abandoned his son, Eric. The kid was in the courtyard when this happened, and he later discovered his father's dead. Eric went on to become a Black Ops soldier, earning the nickname Killmonger for his high corpse count, as evidenced by the marks on his body for everyone he's ever murdered. Killmonger arrives at Wakanda carrying Klaue's corpse. He gives it to Wabi, who leads Killmonger to the palace. Killmonger reveals his real identity, N'Jadaka, and the fact that he is N'Jobu's son. Wabi confirms it to everyone by showing them Killmonger's ring. He declares his goal to take the throne and confronts T'Challa for the position. Everyone arrives for the challenge beside the falls once more. Killmonger battles fiercely, almost easily defeating T'Challa. Zuri goes in to save T'Challa, knowing Killmonger has an anger against him. Killmonger kills Zuri and defeats T'Challa before throwing him over the falls, much to the sadness of Ramonda, Shuri, and Nakia. Thus, Killmonger is crowned king. Killmonger enters the ancestral world and returns to his old flat, where he recalls discovering his father's body. He discovers N'Jobu's old journals and speaks with him briefly. After waking up, Killmonger tells everyone to burn a garden of heart-shaped herbs for future rulers, but Nakia sneaks one away. Nakia joins Ramonda, Shuri, and Ross in their search for the Jabari tribe in the highlands. They approach M'Baku and plead for his help. He tells the men that they fished T'Challa out of the river and that he is currently in coma. Ramonda grinds the herb into a drink for T'Challa before burying him in the snow. He enters the ancestral plane and finds T'Chaka again, this time condemning his actions for leaving Killmonger. T'Chaka says he kept the truth from his kid and expresses regret. T'Challa eventually wakes up. He asks M'Baku for help in defeating Killmonger, but he declines. Killmonger now has the assistance of Wabi and other Wakandan warriors as he prepares to disperse their weapons around the world to other agents and mercenaries, as his father had planned. T'Challa, returning as Black Panther, shoots down one of their jets as it flies overhead. Wabi and his army charge at T'Challa, but he repels them with his kinetic energy. Okoye then led the Dora Milaje into battle. Shuri gives Ross access to a jet so he can take down the others before they leave Wakanda. Ross is capable of shooting them all down. Nakia joins Shuri and Okoye in the fight against Killmonger, who now wears his own costume. Wabi releases armored rhinoceros on the battlefield. Suddenly, the Jabari arrive to assist the Dora Milaje. One of the rhinos almost ran down M'Baku until Okoye intervened. She causes Wabi and his warriors to surrender. Before Killmonger can harm Shuri, T'Challa tackles him and they fall into the Vibranium mines. They continue to fight until T'Challa uses the technology down there to tamper with Killmonger's suit, exposing him and allowing T'Challa to impale him with his own short spear. Killmonger, now vulnerable and dying, expresses regret for failing to perceive Wakanda's true beauty. T'Challa drags Killmonger out of the mine to watch the sunset, which N'Jobu had described as breathtaking. T'Challa offers Killmonger the opportunity to be treated, but he declines, knowing he will only be imprisoned later. Killmonger begs to be buried at sea alongside his ancestors, who recognized death was preferable to bondage. He pulls the spear from his chest and dies calmly. T'Challa reclaims his throne, restoring order in Wakanda. He once again requests Nakia to stay in Wakanda since he has plans for her to assist him. T'Challa takes Shuri to Oakland, outside Killmonger's old flat. T'Challa reveals that he purchased the property and 2 adjacent buildings in order to launch a Wakandan outreach program led by Nakia and Shuri. He then brings their plane down for the children in the courtyard to watch and be amazed by. One of the lads then approaches T'Challa, asking him who he is.